House Speaker Mike Johnson is incensed at Joe Biden for daring to pardon his son Hunter, and he's gonna do a little bit of grandstanding in social media about it. He said President Biden insisted many times he would never pardon his own son for his serious crimes. Again, serious crimes. These are serious crimes. Of all of the politicians accused of crimes recently, his tax thing and his gun thing is serious. Like, sure, they're crimes. And as I've said before, I don't care if Hunter Biden spends the rest of his natural life in prison. But these are the crimes that you're fundamentally worried about. But last night, he suddenly granted a full and unconditional pardon for any and all offenses that Hunter committed for more than a decade. Trust in our justice system has been almost irreparably damaged by the Bidens and their use and abuse of it. Real reform cannot begin soon enough. So is there a crisis of trust in our judicial system? Yes, there certainly is. Is Biden responsible for some of it? Sure. The idea that that's the primary issue, has Mike Johnson cared one little tiny bit, one quantum about the corruption of the Supreme Court? The millions of dollars of gifts that Clarence Thomas and others have gotten. Has he called for reform of that? No, he's tried to ward off literally any reform, even reforms that have very broad-based support amongst both Democrats and Republicans out there across America. He's not remotely interested. He doesn't care about that at all. The fact that Donald Trump, who committed, I don't know, 50 crimes fully in public view, we all know what he did and we know why he did it, is gonna get off entirely scot-free. Basically no consequences whatsoever. Maybe he pays a bit to E. Jean Carroll. Other than that, scot-free. You don't think that that's contributing to people thinking that the justice system has massive problems, that those with power and influence and money are able to do virtually anything they want? In fact, they can brag about it, they can fundraise on it, and there'll be no consequences. That's not affecting people's view of the justice system. It's all nonsense, obviously. Bear in mind, this guy who's so worried about the view of the justice system is 100% behind Kash Patel to head the FBI. He was super defensive about some of the other picks. The reform that he's talking about is a guy who has come in, like obviously, transparently running on, I've got a literal list of enemies. We'll talk about it later in the show, and I'm gonna get them for Trump. Trump has enemies, I'm gonna take them out. That's the reform that's gonna convince Americans broadly that they can trust our judicial system? No, of course not. Mike Johnson wants to have his MAGA and eat it too. He wants to have the support of the MAGA movement, although he doesn't necessarily have that. We'll get to that in a second. But he wants to be the reasonable one, the moderate. He's an earlier type of Republican, and yet he is constantly shilling for all of this extreme nonsense. Yas, what do you think?
Oh, yeah. Well, if there is a crisis of trust and justice, then it is deservedly so, right? And it's on both sides. People on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, do not trust our current justice system. And there's a lot of reason, like they did it to themselves. All of these scandals that were coming out with the Supreme Court justices, that's our highest level of court in our country. And we can't even trust those guys. And they are lifetime appointees because we said, you know what, you are good people, you are just people. We trust you to uphold the law in the highest level possible in the country. And we know now that they're all just as corrupt as all the rest of them. And again, this goes back to my previous point about why do we expect such high morality from these people who we have given almost unchecked power to, right? What kind of person can have that much power and say, I'm gonna, actually do good with it and not benefit myself in any way? It takes a very special person, and I don't think we've really seen that kind of a person in our government. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you are anybody in this country who is even pursuing that level of power, you're already not a normal person, right? Mm-hmm. And then as far as we just elected somebody to the presidency who was convicted of several crimes, right? Several bad crimes. And it seems like he got away with a lot of it, despite the fact that he was found guilty, despite the fact that he was impeached twice during his first presidency. It's almost, John, like nothing matters anymore, right? All these things have no weight to them the way that they used to. Impeachment used to be like, oh, how embarrassing, you've been impeached. And now it's just like, whatever, just move on with your life, because fundamentally it doesn't really change a whole lot. And I don't want to get too nihilistic about things, but I do think that there is a bit of nihilism out in the world these days. And part of it just, it feels like everything we're doing, nothing seems to matter. Nothing seems to hold any weight. Nothing seems of value anymore. And that none of this is helping. So.
Yeah, I think that's overly. I understand. I understand how you feel coming out of the election. I one of the reasons I keep reminding people of how close this election was is that people, I think, do fundamentally get it. They're just frustrated and they need help.
Yeah.
I think they understand how utterly corrupt the system is. I think that can be sort of co-opted by some of those doing the corruption, but I think that they do understand it. If they are ever given the option for a populist for whom the word is actually worth using, which is almost never the case in America, then I think they are going to love it. I think even many who voted for Trump are going to love it because all they've gotten is utter BS, pathetic, corrupt BS. Just gonna briefly show you this. So these are the top comments to that Mike Johnson tweet. It's all crazy right wingers. Hey, what do you know? All of whom pay Elon Musk for the pleasure of being on Twitter. They're all angry at him, Mike Johnson. Like he's just bowing down to oh no, it's the Bidens that are the corrupt ones. Trump's not doing anything wrong. He's not a criminal. And every one of them is like, get the hell out of here, you creepy little gnome. But that's the job that he has, I guess. And he will still be Speaker of the House, so I guess the joke is on us. When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?